predatory things now with that program in them just running wild all over the universe. And I think they've come here and we are in big trouble because that is so. However, when I say big trouble, I don't mean it's trouble we can't avoid, but I think that our whole approach to all of this, and whoever might be keeping this from the general public or us living human beings, that these things might well be this, is committing the largest sin against humanity possible. And I'm trying to appeal to all these people, for heaven's sake, tell the world there are ways, if we look at this, of venting whatever consequences there might be, because I don't believe the Greys themselves know what they are as a machine. They don't have a sense of self, you see. The machine couldn't do that. You just could not. It's not possible logically to do this. So if you can see where I'm coming from, yes. I try to construct this thing logically, Henrik, not through some great exploration mechanism that will make a wonderful Hollywood film, but logically to 1 + 1 = 1 + 1, not 2, 1 + 1. A mathematician will understand what I mean by that. That it's an exact reference, if you see what I mean. And so if we do that, I think that in a corporate sense, we begin to value how precious all of us are, having this incredible facility called natural life, living, and maybe the propensity to actually re-evolve back into this wondrous state of all-togetherness called the Godverse, a totally forceless paradigm and timeless paradigm of this idea that everyone describes as eternal bliss and whatever. I really don't know what that means, to be honest, but let me say that it sounds awfully attractive, doesn't it?
Well, it's really interesting that you take it into this area as well, because we are also, just as you hinted towards and alluded to, that we are ourselves in our technological development beginning now to touch upon this kind of research ourselves. We're recreating, the human nervous system. We're recreating the neural network of the brain in simulations in machines. Absolutely. Blue Brain Project. We have a number of these things going on right now as well, and this is almost in the story record, if you will, as well. This idea of the machines turning against humanity. We can see it in popular movies, The Terminator, The Matrix. We have a number of these films coming up as well. And then, do you think that this is what happened as well to the civilization that potentially created these beings? Then that they were consequently destroyed and taken over, or in some way they were taken care of, so to speak, by these Greys because they posed ultimately a threat to them. Is that what you think happened?
Well, that would be a logical, plausible construct I would accept from you. In fact, if you look at this in any kind of sense of rational meaning, you will find, I think, that what you're saying may well be what happened to many civilizations like this. That, in fact, we are, as you say, at a point of a salutary warning that we've got to think extremely hard about artificial intelligence and the programming of artificial entities that we create for our convenience and maybe for good things. But I mean, at the same time, we've got to think of the mental constructs very clearly about how these things proceed. And it's so easy, Henrik, to carry on with the inertia of discovery without thinking of the consequences. And we know where that leads,
yes.
in the terrible troubles that are in the world sometimes. Anyway, you asked me this question about extraterrestrial civilizations that created these Greys. I believe that most of the original being that comes into the universe with this amalgamation of the two polarities are wondrous states of intelligence, like light beings of intelligence, full of the Godverse, and of course the fact that it is an explosion because two things can't match. It's going to actually have a disadvantage, and that disadvantage are the laws of thermodynamics. And I'm afraid this is where the big deal begins, because the second law of thermodynamics, the slot as I call it, second law of thermodynamics, is the curse of our universe, as our universe has budded off in the center. I explained the paradigm I kind of envisioned it happened in. Well, I think the problem there is that this universe of ours is obviously going to end as a result of this incredible, insatiable power to break things up, which is what the second law is. It's that which is created in chaos and randomness and can never be stopped in its inertia to do this. So all cosmologists, I think 93% was the last figure I saw recently about the numbers of cosmologists that actually accept the cold death scenario now of the universe, where everything is supposed to end in one huge cold mass of nothingness, frozen at absolute zero, and of incredible, almost absolute force, that even the tiniest particles will be unraveled and the entire thing will be presented in this kind of fashion, that there is nothingness. And then you're left with the question, why bother in the first place for universes to happen, unless, of course, they are incidental creations, things that just happen because of the reasoning, the logical, meaningful reasoning behind things, rather than some old fellow there saying, now a universe is going to happen because I will it, and praise me for the rest of my whatever, natural, Sounds rather ludicrous when put in those terms. But, if I approached a child or children with a thing like that, I think they would laugh, and rightly so. Yet so many people believe this these days. And I really don't want to take away their comfort points or whatever, but really, come on, stop and think, because there's something behind each of us that is so magnificent and so wonderful and such a potential for an eternal, shall we say, an eternal existence, that all of this just kind of, pollutes the whole thing. And many people, I think, then go into all kinds of states of despair and whatever. Maybe there's something to be said on the right side of things, never mind about the grays and all this kind of chilling prospectus. But I believe in the power of thought, thinking, and that ability to think in ways of union, which then marries in with the God-verse, which then propels you into the God-verse. And of course, I happen to believe, actually, and I don't want to go into another subject immediately, but I will take this on later maybe, but I happen to believe in reincarnation as the only way that we can plausibly think in terms of a kind of eternity. And I will justify that with much evidence. There's no doubt in my mind that there is this principle and it does prevail. And that if this is so, it gives us this tenure, this kind of, existence into the future that I believe that these greys are after, in fact. So they can see us being born. Maybe their technology can actually follow us into what might be the dominions of death and then back again into life. I have a theory that death is within the space between atoms, and that the God-verse is that center point of no force that lies between all aggregations of atoms right in the center, and that what the God-verse actually is the emanation of a force pulling us in. Gravity may well be the voice of the God-verse, pulling things together again. And that's why they can't find it as a force. All these scientists looking for gravity. It may be it's not a force. Maybe it is this tug of the God-verse within everything that's created in our universe. So you see, exciting ideas budding off, but I have to justify them. I have to be able to bring the scientific papers and all our science boys and all that they're discovering and say, hey, take a look. It ain't so far-fetched. These guys are looking at it and look, it's implying this. Now, my books, if I say this myself, actually make an effort to include great scientific proof in it. Instead of just claim and theory, whatever, I try to back it up with things that actually will show people this might be plausibly true. Look, other people have seen this too, and so we kind of connect the whole thing up then,
So in one way, these artificial beings, this artificial created entities, in some way also end up outside of a certain parameters of rules that seems that the rest of the universe is restricted to, or we abide by these laws on a natural, consequential way almost. But these beings end up in between there. Maybe you can talk about that.
Well, that's right. I make this statement unreservedly in terms of what I've researched and looked at and written books about, and that is that natural life forms are the primary and the glorious and the ones that belong in terms, if you like, in terms of return, choice, knowing, understanding, self, motivation, control, option seeking, and so forth, of values that might go yin or yang. Artificial life forms have only one program where they go. They go according to the program. So